Good morning. Monday morning, 9:30, Gentle Flow class. So, thanks for joining. So, a word about this Hatha Flow class. It's actually a gentle class. So, it's going to be at a more relaxed pace than perhaps some are accustomed to. Feel free to modify the practice as appropriate for yourself, as is true with every class. But particularly for this gentle class, if you're looking for a more vigorous one, amp it up to whatever degree feels right for you today. And if you're looking just for that sort of slower pace, then of course follow along with me. At any time, adjust and modify as needed. Beautiful. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to come to a comfortable seat, and we'll start with a little bit of grounding work just to begin to turn the attention inward, connect with sensation, really feel that sense of awareness of breath saturating the lungs. So find your comfortable seat. And feel free, as we spend a few minutes here, to focus on the breath, to change. If you find you get beyond the point of comfort, go beyond your edge, just go ahead and take your legs out in front of you or change the cross to the other direction, whatever feels appropriate. Really looking to have a sense of comfort and ease. Yoga Sutras doesn't actually refer to any poses per se. The asana that it references is a comfortable seat. And it describes it as being sweet and steady, as how it can be translated into the English. So the sense of sweetness, of ease, a sense of comfort. So some traditions instill that if you start to feel discomfort, you just breathe through it and push through it. I would suggest it's more important that you don't allow the mind to become distracted. So if you get to the point that there's a sense of discomfort in the body, where the mind starts to focus more on sensation and comes out of the present, then it might be time to adjust and shift. So as you find your comfortable seat and feel a sense of weightedness through the pelvic region, really grounding yourself down, there's a sense of heaviness, the force of gravity sinking you, but without collapse. So while you're noticing the pressing of the sits bones, you're not sinking into it. You continue to feel an upward lift through the spinal column, a natural upward inclination, without any sort of force. So you want to allow the shoulders to relax. The hands may rest on the lap or on the thighs. If you're accustomed to holding certain mudras, hand gestures, feel free to take one that feels appropriate for you. If that's not something customary to you, just hold them any which way. If you want a slight introduction to some mudras, Gyan Mudra, bringing the thumb and forefinger together, is a useful practice to focus the concentration. We describe it as maintaining an inward energy. When we close a circle, the energy doesn't have a way to escape. So mentally, it may assist us to visualize that sense of maintaining that inward energy without letting it escape, which is appropriate at certain times, but not perhaps when we're looking to cultivate that sense of inward awareness and inward focus. Keep the chin parallel to the floor. Close the eyes if it's comfortable. And even if the eyes are closed, envision that if they were opened, you were staring straight ahead. So notice if your eyeballs have a tendency to shift downward, even with them closed. If they were open, would you be looking toward the ground or perhaps upward toward the ceiling? Allow them to rest and relax in their natural state in the socket, which would be to stare directly forward. Begin to focus the awareness on your breath without changing or modifying the natural rhythm of your breath in this moment. Take an opportunity to observe its quality today. How does it feel? Whenever possible for this practice, I will invite you to breathe in and out of your nose. Perhaps could go without saying, if you have any congestion, then obviously breathe through the mouth. But if available to you, if there's no congestion, I invite you to breathe through the nose. Breathing through the nose allows the breath to be warmed through the nasal passage before entering the lungs. So now, if you bring your attention, your mental focused attention, to the outer edge of the nostrils, just focus the awareness there on the inhale. Notice the breath passing by this area, going up the nasal passage, down into the throat, before reaching the lungs. And conversely, on the exhale, as it reverses this flow, just observe the breath exiting the nostrils. As we continue just observing this breath for another minute or so, also observe what's happening with the mind. Notice if a thought is coming that pulls your focus away from observing the breath entering and exiting through the nostrils. And if so, then just let that thought go and bring the awareness back to the edge of the nostrils to observe the breath. Now I'm going to invite you to bring your palms pressing gently together and bring the thumbs toward the heart center at Anjali Mudra. Ever so gently pressing the palms together, as well as also feeling as if you're trying to draw them apart, paradoxically pressing and pulling same time. When you're ready, we're going to start with some nice gentle movements. This is to warm up our shoulder joint by pressing the palms together at heart center. Start now to raise the arms up overhead as the fingertips begin to reach toward the ceiling. Now rotate the arm bones at the shoulder so the palms face outward, and as you reach and extend the arms toward the walls, lowering them down to the floor. As the fingertips reach the floor, on an inhale, rotate the shoulders and bring the palms facing up, arms overhead once more. Fingertips come toward one another. Now again, rotate, palms face out, reach and extend. Once the fingers reach the ground, rotate the arms, inhale the arms overhead. And again, exhale as you turn the arms outward, palms face down. Now reach the arms to the side wall. A few more cycles flowing with the rhythm of your breath. Inhale the arms overhead. And exhale the arms down. Now, if at any time during this practice you need to have a look at what is being described, feel free to do so. But also feel the freedom to close the eyes and keep that inward focus. Observe sensation in the body. See how it feels for you. We often talk about yoga is not how a pose looks, it's how it feels. So don't worry about getting to a particular point in a pose. Worry about how it feels for you. Next time we arrive with the arms overhead, we're going to pause there. A shoulder width apart. Bring the shoulder blades together in the back body. Reach and extend the fingertips. Straighten the arms as much as you can. Feel them lifting the torso right out of the pelvis as you keep rooting through the sits bones. On an exhale, turn the torso over the right thigh. Lower the left palm to the right thigh and let that right hand come close to the floor, down to the floor, close to the spine. Now you can turn the gaze over the right shoulder if that feels okay for your neck, or keep the chin directly over the sternum, gazing forward. So next are an area of the body to be very cautious with, and since this is a gentle flow class, there's really no need to sort of push yourself. Feel that sense of ease and comfort. Following the next exhale, we're going to inhale the arms up overhead as we bring the torso back to center, back to midline. On the exhale, we come to the left-hand side this time with the right palm down to the left thigh, and that left hand close into the spine behind as the fingers or palm reaches to the ground. With that hand that's behind the back, if you can press either into the palm if it's flat or into the tented fingers to give additional lift through the spinal column. And again, a soft, gentle gaze over the left shoulder. Observe the breath. See if you can keep that focus near the nostrils. Just observe that breath coming and going. Following the next exhale, we're going to inhale the arms up overhead, bring the body to the center again. A second time to the first side, right hand side, left hand down to the right thigh. Bring that right hand close into the spine behind you, gazing over the right shoulder. Observe the twist in the torso here, gently opening the back of the right shoulder toward the wall behind. As you keep the left palm on the right thigh, we're now going to raise the right arm up overhead as you bring the torso back to center. Reach and extend the fingertips, straighten the arm. Feel as if the arm is lifting right up through the waist. All the muscles right through the shoulder girdle, down the side of the rib cage, all the way down to the waist, reach and extend. Now when an arm is raised overhead, there's always an option to turn the gaze up to look at it, but again, that's how it feels in your neck, and for some that's not very pleasant, in which case just keep the chin parallel to the floor, gazing directly forward. Soft, gentle, drishti gaze. As we begin to lower that right hand down to the ground alongside of us, we're going to take the hand off the thigh, the left hand, open it out to the left hand side. Rotate the palm to face up, bring the arm up overhead, and keep coming over toward a C curve here. Notice the left sit bone remains anchored down, and we're not collapsing into the right hand. We're preventing falling into the right hand. We want to lift out of the sits bone that's rooted down, reach and extend those left fingertips toward the wall on the right, either maintaining neutrality in the neck, or if it feels okay, you can move the head gently and slowly, side to side. Bringing the head back to neutral. We're going to inhale the torso upright and raise the right arm up to meet the left. Now we're going to come to the left hand side a second time as you exhale. Again, bring the right hand down to the left thigh. Bring the left hand close into the spine behind you. And an option to turn the gaze over the left shoulder. Again, rooting down through the left palm or fingertips to give additional lift through the spinal column. Chin parallel to the floor. Imagine you have a string gently coming up the crown of the head, ever so gently lifting you up toward the ceiling as you keep rooting down through the sits bones. As you maintain the right palm on the left thigh, this time raise the left arm up toward the ceiling. Straighten and extend the arm upward. Reach the fingertips higher. Feel it coming right from the waist on the left hand side. Again, an option to turn the gaze up to that raised hand, or just keep the chin parallel to the floor, soft, drishti, gentle gaze forward. Of course, option to close the eyes and focus again on the breath, observing that sensation of breath passing in and out past the nostrils. Now, as we begin to lower the left hand down alongside the ground, open the right arm out, take it over to the right hand side, rotate the palm to face up, bring the arm up and come over toward a C curve. Particularly keep the right sit bone anchored down as you reach and extend the right arm to the wall on the left hand side. And once again, remember not to collapse into that left hand, just gently bracing yourself or propping yourself there without bearing excess weight. Once more, an option to move the head gently side to side. And of course, always freedom just to hold it steady if that feels better for you today. Now as you inhale the torso back upright, right arm overhead, bring the left arm up overhead. Again, shoulder width apart. Hold them here for a few breaths. Just going to lose my top layer as we warm up. And now, bending the arms at 90-degree angle, palms facing forward, cactus arms. Take the elbows slightly toward the wall behind you. Observe the scapula activating here, coming together in the back body. On an exhale, we're going to hollow out the belly, arch the back, tuck the chin, and bring the elbows together in front of us. You might notice you slightly rock back on the pelvis. On the inhale, reverse this trend. Take the elbows apart, lean forward with the sternum, maybe rocking forward on the pelvis. Chin off the chest, maybe a slight gaze to the ceiling. Now we're flowing with the rhythm of our breath. On the exhale, we bring the elbows together, hollow out the belly as you arch the back, tuck the chin. Inhale, take the elbows apart toward the wall behind you. Sternum leads the way forward. Exhale. Now you can either follow along at my pace or choose your natural breath rhythm. Inhale as you lead the sternum forward. Exhale as you tuck the chin and arch the back. Several cycles here. Leading with the breath. The breath leads the motion of the body. We'll do this a couple more times. There's always an option. If you feel impingement in the shoulders, might feel nicer to take the arms out straight. You can still maintain this similar position of tucking the chin and arching the back by bringing the wrists together, and then take these straight arms out to the side again. And again, as you exhale, you bring the wrists together with the arms stretched out in front of you. So just an example of how you can always modify a pose to feel in a way that is most appropriate for your body. And then now, as we bring the arms back up to the side, let's go ahead and bring them down in front of us. You can either roll over the knees or perhaps take the legs out to the side, rolling onto a hip. We're moving toward tabletop position. If you've been sitting on a block or bolster, you can go ahead and move that out of the way. If you have a blanket, it might be nice to put it underneath the knees, or possibly doubling up the mat if you have tender or sensitive knees. That's an option as well. So just finding our foundation in our tabletop position. Keep the shoulders directly over the wrists. Knees are directly underneath the hips. Keep the neutrality in the spine. Crown of the head reaches forward as the sits bones reach back. Soft, gentle gaze down to the mat. Neutral neck. You can either have the toes tucked or the feet might be on the shoelaces. And now we'll continue with a little bit of this extension and flexion of the spine as we move through cat and cow. On an exhale again, arch the back, tuck the chin to the chest. As you inhale, drop the belly, take the chin off the chest, rock the pelvis back. Again, exhale, coming to cat pose. Inhale, coming to cow or upward cat. Exhale, cow, cat. Inhale, cow. Couple more times now, and I'll just make a few reminders here. Spread the palm wide, press through all 5 fingers. Focus pressing on the fingertips and predominantly on the thumb and forefinger mound and a little on the pinky mound. We really want to prevent any pressing through the center of the wrist crease. There's also a slight sensation of drawing the fingertips back in the direction of the palm. This just creates a greater engagement of the entire hand and assists in protecting the wrist. As we come back to neutral tabletop position, we're going to go ahead and come to child's pose or alternate resting pose. If you want to take child's pose, you can either have the knees together as you sink the buttocks back to the heels, or take the knees to the outside edges of the mat, big toes together as you lower the buttocks back to the heels and forehead to the ground. If that isn't available to you, alternate resting pose is to keep the hips directly over the knees, bring the forearms onto the ground, and rest the forehead on the ground. In either of those poses, if the forehead doesn't quite reach the ground, feel free to stack your palms or your fists to allow the forehead to rest and let the muscles in the back of the neck just relax. So if your forehead is not resting on something, observe that you're activating some muscles in the back of the neck, and we're just looking to rest those at this point. Perhaps if you have a block close by, you can set that under your forehead. That's always a nice option, or a blanket. But in child's pose or alternate resting pose, really looking
to rest everything, including the muscles in the back of the neck. And we're going to lift back up to tabletop position again. And we're going to take the right leg out behind us at hip height, keeping the hips squared off and parallel. Reach and extend the sole of the foot to the wall behind you. Keep the crown of the head reaching forward. Hug the muscles of the right leg around the bone, activating the foot, dorsiflexion here. Toes are pointing to the ground. Let's go ahead and lower that right leg, and we'll repeat this on the opposite side. This time as you raise the left leg out, again, step the sole of the foot to the wall behind you. Hug the muscles around the bone. Reach the crown of the head forward. Start to feel a little activation in the deep core muscles, the area of the abdominal muscles, primarily the ones beneath the belly button. Let's go ahead and lower that left leg down. We're going to go back to the right-hand side as you raise that leg up behind you. And now everyone's going to bring their left hand forward on the mat, slide it forward. It might arrive to the front of the mat or just ahead of the mat. You can come up on tented fingers. Reach the sole of the right foot behind you. Straighten the left arm. Tented fingers, perhaps the palm. Tented fingers might provide a little additional lift and stability here. Now there's an option, if you'd like, to raise the hand off the ground, turning the palm to face inward here. If you take this option, reach the fingertips toward the wall in front of you. Perfectly fine to keep the hand on the ground for a greater sense of stability and balance. And we'll go ahead and lower the right knee down and bring the left hand back in directly under the shoulder. Repeating on the opposite side to start just the leg raise, left leg behind you, reach and extend it. Feel a long line through the body as the sole of the foot reaches to the wall behind, the crown of the head reaches forward. And everyone now sliding the right hand forward on the mat, either toward the front of the mat or just ahead of the mat. Come onto tented fingers. Engage the deep core abdominal muscles here. And now an option to raise that right arm, turn the palm to face inward, reach and extend the fingertips forward if you've raised it. Another breath. And lowering the right palm and lowering the left knee. We'll come back to the first side again. Raise the right leg out behind you. Now again, either bring the left fingertips tented in front of the mat or raise that arm up. And we'll come to a few cat crunches, similar to the cat and cow we did in table. If your hand's on the ground, on the exhale, arch the back and bring the knee underneath the chest. On the inhale, straighten the leg out behind you. If you raise the arm as you exhale, you're bringing the elbow and knee together. As you inhale, you take the limbs out in opposite direction. So whichever variation you've taken here, whether the hand's on the ground or raised, on the exhale, arch the back and tuck the chin. On the inhale, really reach that leg out behind you and perhaps the hand reaching further forward. Few cycles with the rhythm of your breath. Beautiful. And the next time the leg comes up behind you, pause with it there. Lower the knee and bring the hand back under the shoulder. Repeating on the opposite side, this time start just with the left leg out behind you. Now either walk the fingertips tented forward at the front of the mat or the hand off of the mat. Pause here before we begin cat crunches. Reach and extend the limbs in opposite direction, even if the hand is on the ground. And once again on the exhale, arch the back, tuck the chin. And perhaps bring the elbow and knee together, or just the knee under the chest if the hand's on the ground. Inhale, stretch them out in opposite direction, and exhale, Again, arch the back and tuck the chin. Cat crunches. As you inhale, really stretch out that leg behind you. Exhale again to a cat crunch. And then next time the leg comes out behind, holding it there. Either the arm is forward or on the mat. Now bring the hand underneath the shoulder, lowering the knee down. We're going to come to a resting pose again. So either child's pose or alternate resting pose. Take again an opportunity. Bring the attention inward, focusing the awareness on the breath. Observe that breath coming past the entrance of the nasal passage. Now as we come out of child pose or alternate resting pose, back to tabletop position. Just again, a couple of words of placement about the hands. We talked already about how to press through all 5 fingers. And I want also to externally rotate the upper arm bone. So we're manually doing that internally here. And observe, if you want to have a quick look forward here, you can sit back on the heels or whatnot. I just want to show that in a tabletop position, normally the elbow pits are facing toward one another. With an external rotation of the humerus, we have the elbow pit becomes more forward than inward. So notice how my elbow pit comes more forward as I externally rotate my arm. You may have heard this described as well as turning the hands out in the direction of the pinky. And the sticky mat prevents them from moving. But we get that same sensation. So some people have described it as turning a light bulb in the direction of the pinky or opening a jar lid. So you're sort of doing this with the hands, but our sticky mat holds them steady, and still the upper part of the arm continues in that motion. That's where we're looking for the active engagement, keeping the arms straight, and notice the activation in the upper part of the back here. Lifting high out of the palms. As you keep pressing down, you're lifting out of them. I'm just going to change position here because we're going to come toward a plank position or modified plank. So in our modified plank position, it is that activation of the arms and lifting up out of them. And now there's an option to take one leg back behind you with the toes tucked. And perhaps the other leg back behind you with the toes tucked and having a strong plank pose here. Now if you need to modify here, the option is to drop the knees and keep lifting out of the hands. We want to prevent lifting the hips higher. If your arms are needing a rest and you need to modify, drop the knees and keep activated in the arms. Beautiful, let's go ahead and drop the knees. We'll pause here momentarily. We're going to come in a moment back to another plank position. And for those of you who've been at my gentle yoga classes at the local seniors center, you might remember at times we use a block between our thighs. If you have a prop at home, feel free to use that, but I recognize most people probably don't have props like this in their home. I want you to envision again the next time we come up as if you had a block, so you're trying to squeeze it inward between the thighs. So even though the thighs aren't touching, there's that sense of adduction. The muscles are activated to squeeze inward here. So again, activate the pressing in the palms, straighten the arms, external rotation of the humerus, and either lift out of those with the knees still on the ground, or if you want to come to full plank, take the feet behind you, toes tucked. One long line. Squeeze the adductor muscles inward. Imagine you had a block between the legs that you were squeezing. Crown of the head is extending forward. Come out whenever you're ready. You are always in the driver's seat of your practice. And let's go ahead and drop the knees. And let's come to child's pose or alternate resting pose. Forehead coming down to the ground. And now, coming out of child's pose, we're coming back up to a tabletop position. So we're going to bring the sole of the right foot forward near the right thumb mount. So for some, you might need to stand more up on the knees to bring it forward. However you need to get it there, make sure that the right knee is directly over the ankle. You want a perpendicular shin bone. The hands come down to the ground, perhaps the palms reach or just on tented fingers. If you want additional sensation in the back leg, in the front of the quadricep, you can walk that leg further back. Again, if the toes are tucked, that's an option. You'll feel less sensation if you put the shoelaces, this part of the foot where your shoelaces on a shoe would be, flat on the ground. Again, you get more sensation here. We're opening up some hip work here, so be gentle and cautious. If it's too much sensation, you can just walk that back knee further in. In any respect, whether you're taking that left leg further back or not, ensure that the knee on the right leg remains above the ankle. If you make a modification and you notice the knee coming forward, this is putting undue strain on our joints and the skeletal structure. So just adjust to make sure that knee directly over the ankle. The crown of the head reaches forward. There is now an option to raise the torso up and bring the palms onto the thigh. Holding here for a breath, and just modify my position. Either remaining in this position or take the arms up to the side, rotate at the shoulders so the palms face up, inhale the arms up overhead. Reach and extend the fingertips to the ceiling, straighten the arms, feel the shoulder blades coming together in the back body. Focus the awareness on that breath again, just observe it coming in through the nostrils here. We're going to take a twist toward the right hand side, turn the torso over the side, lower the left hand down to the leg and the right hand close to the spine behind you. If you hadn't raised the arms and you have both hands still on the thigh, just take that right hand to the small of the back. As we bring the torso back to center, bringing the right hand back to the thigh, go ahead and lower the hands down to the mat, and we'll take that right leg back behind us, underneath us, in a tabletop position. Pausing here momentarily, neutral spine, neutral neck, crown of the head reaches forward, gazing down to the mat. We'll move to the opposite side. So again, either bring that left leg forward, or if you have to stand up on the legs to do so, however you need to modify to bring the left sole of the foot toward the front of the mat. And again, option to walk that back leg further back if you want to feel additional sensation in the front of the quadricep on the right hand leg. Once more, ensure your knee directly over your ankle. Some traditions refer to this, it's translated into English as equestrian pose or horse rider pose. And again, either maintaining the hands on the ground or lifting the torso and bring the palms on to the left thigh. If you feel any sort of sense of instability or lack of balance here, you might notice if the legs are too close together, you can always take the left leg further out to the side, left side of the mat, again maintaining that perpendicular position of the shin bone. But taking the legs wider can provide a greater sense of stability if you found a little bit of instability having them closer together. With the palms on the thigh, option to keep them there or take the arms out to the side. Rotate the palms to face up. Inhale the arms up overhead. Reach and extend the fingertips toward the ceiling. Either gazing directly forward, chin parallel to the ground, or an option to raise the hands creates a greater bit of challenge in the sense of balance. We'll prepare for our twist. If your arms are raised, lower the right hand to the left thigh, left hand to the small of the back. And once again, if the hands remained on the thigh, just take that left hand to the small of the back. Open the left shoulder toward the wall behind you as you rotate the torso toward the left wall. Bring the torso back toward the front of the room, left hand back to the thigh. Let's go ahead and bring the palms down to the mat. And we'll go ahead and take that left leg back behind us and pausing in a tabletop position. And now coming to rest in child pose or alternate resting pose. Sink the buttocks back to the heels if available and lowering the forehead down to the mat. Taking a rest here, focus the awareness on the breath, entering and exiting the body. Observe the state of the mind. Notice if you're allowing yourself to be taken away with various thoughts. So if thoughts come, when thoughts come, just let them pass by. Bring the awareness back to the breath. Beautiful. And coming back upward here, we're going to move towards standing. So find your way up to a standing position. You want to come up to feel really grounded and rooted through the four corners of each foot. Squarely grounding through each foot. Engage the musculature of the legs, hugging them to the bone. Feel that natural lift through the spinal column, right up through the crown of the head. Maintain the chin parallel with the floor. Now open at the shoulders here. Rotate the shoulders, the upper arm bones, palms facing forward. Observe how it opens the upper front of the body. Clavicles or collarbones coming apart from one another. Mountain pose. So we're going to do a little bit of breath work here, so just go ahead and relax the body for a moment here. So I'm going to walk us through a slow version of the breath of joy. I'm going to demonstrate 2 cycles, and then I'll lead us through it. So what I want to say is, with the arm position, you may feel at times like, oh, they're going in the wrong direction, or the wrong direction. Don't worry about that so much. If you find the mind getting entangled in doing it the right way, See if you can let that go and just feel sensation in the body. So I'm going to do 2 demonstrations briefly here and then have everyone follow along. The first one I'll face forward and the next one to the side, just so you can see visually, because I recognize there's people like myself who are visual learners and it's more helpful to see something before listening to it. So with the breath of joy, there's going to be some lightness in the legs, because when we come forward, we will be bending the knees. So there's 3 arm movements here. We firstly inhale the arms out in front of us. We take them out to the side. And as we bring them up overhead, on an exhale, forceful exhale, we bend forward. And then we rise back up and repeat the cycle, and I'll walk us through each one. So I'll just demonstrate it again from the side, so you for the visual. Inhale the arms forward, out to the side, up overhead, and forceful exhale. And then we repeat that again. So finding yourself rooted in the 4 corners of your feet, a little bit of lightness in the legs here, because remember we're going to be bending them on that exhale. So I'll walk us through it here. Arms in front, to the side, overhead, exhale. Arms in front, over to the side, overhead, exhale. Arms in front, to the side, overhead, exhale. 5 more. Arms in front, to the side, overhead, exhale. Arms in front, to the side, overhead, exhale. In front, side, overhead, exhale. Front, side, overhead, exhale. Front, side, overhead, exhale. 2 more. Side, overhead, exhale. Last one. Arms in front, side, overhead, exhale. Come up to standing. Let the arms hang at the side. If it's available to you, you can close the eyes. You're going to focus the attention inward here. If that feels too unstable, soft, gentle gaze with the eyes open. Root firmly through the feet. Just notice sensation in the body. Maybe there's a sense of tingling. Maybe there's a sense of rush of blood. Just observe sensation here. This is called the breath of joy. It's a heating breath practice. It's a useful practice to reinvigorate the body, bring some heat, really activate us. So let's do another cycle, 8 rounds. I think I may have thrown an extra one in there, bonus breath of joy cycle. So we'll do 8 cycles here, and again, I'll walk us through this. And again, if you notice, my arms went the wrong way, don't worry about that. Just keep going with the flow. And also, because I'm talking, I'm not able to demonstrate that. Feel free to fully exasperate. As you're coming forward, exhale. You really want to let the air go. Okay, beautiful. So this new cycle, we're going to bring the arms in front, side, overhead, exhale. 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 3 more. Front, side, overhead, exhale. Front, side, overhead, exhale. Last one. Side, overhead, exhale. And come up to standing once more. Root through the feet. Invitation to close the eyes if you feel stable here. Otherwise, a soft, gentle gaze with them open. Connecting with the breath, observing the quality of the mind. Just scanning the body to see where you feel sensation. So there's different kinds of breath work for different purposes. The breath of joy is one to activate and energize, and it's a heating breath. If you find at certain times during this period of self-isolation or quarantine or whatever situation you may be in at the moment that you're actually feeling heated, there's other breath work we can do that are cooling breaths. For example, one's called the Shitali breath. And you breathe deeply on an inhale, and on the exhale, you gently purse the lips, almost like you're trying to have a straw in the lips, and exhale with a slight whistle. So I'll do a couple of demonstrations of this. We're not going to walk through that right now today. I'm just providing it for you as an opportunity if you're feeling at times overheated. It's a really lovely way just to cool and bring some calm to the nervous system. So just as a brief demonstration here, as you inhale deeply and gently pursing the lips, perhaps even curling the tongue, and exhaling slowly like you're breathing through a straw, and there might be a whistle. Do one more cycle for demonstration. Anyway, that's a technique you can utilize if it feels appropriate for you at any given time. Naturally, it should go without saying, everyone who's doing a yoga practice has at some point spoken to a medical professional to get guidance and approval of any exercise program that you're commencing. Likewise with breath work. If you have asthma, if you have hypertension or hypotension, just allow the breath to flow its natural pace. It's not recommended to utilize certain breath work. Feel free to speak to a healthcare professional if you aren't sure what is appropriate for your particular needs. Beautiful. So we're going to come back down to the mat, making our way down to a comfortable seat. So as we come toward staff pose here, you really want to see that you're walking flesh up the sits bone so you have a really strong, firm connection with your sits bones, rooted down to the ground. We're going to activate our legs, hug the muscles to the bone, the dorsiflexion of the feet so they're pointing upward here. And now we really want to feel that sense of lifting the torso out of the pelvis. It can assist to bring the arms alongside the body, palms pressed down, fingertips facing forward. Press through those palms, or maybe tented fingers, to give additional lift through the spinal column. Crown of the head reaching up toward the ceiling, chin parallel to the floor. Engage legs. Hug the muscles to the bone. Keep breathing. Focus the breath on the nostrils again. Bring the attention inward momentarily here. And just relaxing that a little. We're going to come down now toward our back. So take the knees to a bent position, soles of the feet flat on the ground as you lower down onto your back. Keep the arms alongside the body, palms are facing down. Bring the knees hip-width apart and keep the feet directly facing forward. And just notice if their feet are turned in slightly or turned out, and bring them to be perpendicular with the front edge of the mat. Notice the pelvis here. As you rock the pelvis toward the head, you notice how the spine is fully flush with the mat. Rock the pelvis away from the head and look at how there's a curvature under the back. I mean, I could slide my hand under perhaps. We want to rock the pelvis in the direction of the head so that you're spreading the low back, you're fully flush with the spinal column. We're going to prepare to come to a bridge pose, and this is the optimal position for supporting our back and also softening the front line of the body here. With the arms alongside the body, pressing down through the palms. We're going to root through the feet and the upper back and shoulders. Remember, don't put any undue pressure on the back of the head, and there may be a dime-like pressure on the back of the head, so never move your head to the side when there's even an ounce of pressure on it. If you need to look, come out of the pose, take any weight off the head, and then have a look. So again, rock the pelvis in the direction of the head and begin to lift the hips up toward the ceiling, rooting through the feet and shoulders. Lift the hips high up to the ceiling and also slightly in the direction of the wall in front of the knees. If you feel it's a real challenge to lift the hips, you can perhaps bring the palms under the back of the waist and lift a little higher. We want to have the hips coming up a little higher if possible. Keep a softness in the front of the belly. The gluteus muscles are activated, but we're not clenching them. Imagine you had a block in between your legs that you were hugging and squeezing the adductor muscles inward. And now we're slowly going to reverse the trend and lower the vertebra one at a time as you bring the sacrum and buttocks back to the mat. And pausing here. Reconnect with the breath. Focus on the breath through the nostrils. 2 more deep, nourishing breaths before we come to another bridge. Following that second exhale, again, rock the pelvis toward the head, lift the hips up toward the ceiling and a little bit forward. If you have a normal practice with different variations of bridge, feel free to incorporate that. Otherwise, just holding the hips high. Squeeze the adductor muscles inward here. Imagine you had a block between the thighs you were bringing inward. Two more breaths. And slowly lower the vertebra one at a time down toward the ground. Once the sacrum reaches the ground, soles of the feet off the mat and hug the knees in toward the chest. You can either remain stationary here in a supine child pose or gently rocking side to side. Beautiful. So let's take the soles of the feet back down to the mat. We're now going to bring the soles of the feet to touch one another, pressing the soles together and letting the knees fall out to the side. So this is butterfly pose, or also known as goddess pose in some traditions. Now for some of us with tight hips or maybe groins, this might feel a little unpleasant. You can always take the feet further away. The heels further away from the perineum might bring a sense of relief here. And of course, also an invitation to bring them closer into the perineum if that feels all right for you. The hands may be along the side of the body, or perhaps you want to bend at the elbows, 90-degree angle, bring the palms on to the belly. This is a really lovely way to focus the awareness on the breath as well. Today we've been doing a lot of focus on the breath at the entry point of the nostrils. But here, observing the breath as you inhale, the belly rises. Maybe pulling the fingertips slightly further away. And the exhale, as it recedes, fingertips might come back together. We're going to stay in this reclined goddess pose or butterfly pose for another 25 or 30 seconds. If this is not pleasant on the hips or groin, you can bring the knees back together. Take the soles of the feet to the outside edges of the mat and drop the knees in toward one another. It's just a lovely counter position for the hips. But for some of you, I know maintaining that butterfly is perfectly fine. 10 more seconds. So all of us will bring again now the soles of the feet flat on the ground. Take the feet to the outside edges of the mat. And now arms back alongside the body again, and perhaps in T formation. We're going to start to drop the knees from one side to the other. So windshield wipering the legs. As you drop, one knee comes toward the instep of the opposite foot. And as you go to the opposite side, of course, that trend reverses. Now there's also an option to bring more movement all the way through the spinal column, the long line of the body, and turning the head in the opposite direction from which the knees are falling. Beautiful. And then now we'll just drop the legs over toward the left-hand side. If you're looking for more sensation, you can either maintain this here, but there's a couple of options. You can either take the left sole of the foot and heel off the ground, bring the ankle just on top of the other leg. That creates a little more twist here as that weight lowers the right leg a little bit further down. That's one option. Another option is to bring the left and right knees stacked together one over the other. If you took the left leg on top of the right leg, uncross them, we'll bring the legs back up towards center and then repeat on the opposite side. Drop the legs to the right-hand side, option to turn the gaze over the left shoulder. And again, either just hold them there, or maybe you want to take the right ankle onto the outside of the left thigh, or perhaps you want to stack the left leg on top of the right leg. See if you can keep the left shoulder glued to the ground here, whichever option you take. And again, either rest on the back of the skull or gazing over that left shoulder. Three more breaths. And if the legs are stacked, uncross them. Bring the legs back up to center. And we'll just prepare now to move towards Shavasana, final resting pose. So if you feel your body is asking any final movements before closing the practice, feel free to take the next 30 or seconds or minute to do so. Otherwise, perhaps spend this time to grab maybe an article of clothing, socks, or a sweater, or maybe a blanket. You want to have a sense of real comfort and warmth, and make sure that you're not potentially being distracted by if there's a draft. So sometimes a blanket can be nice. So if you're coming down to Shavasana now, really letting the body sink down to the ground, the legs stretch down in front of you. If you have any tightness or tension or sensation in the low back, in Shavasana, there's always an option to bend the knees, bringing the soles of the feet flat on the ground. Notice that that actually changes the position of the low back to become more flush and creates a greater sense of ease in the low back if that is a concern for you today. If the legs are stretched out in front, allow the feet to splay slightly outward to the side. Perhaps gently, ever so slightly, rolling onto the shoulder heads, the shoulder blades, so they sort of allow that openness through the front part of the body, the arms alongside the body, about 15 degrees off center, and preferably resting the back of the hand on the mat. And again, this just helps to minimize the extrasensory perception of the fingertips, should they be facing down on the mat. That can be a little bit of a distraction, so resting the hand, the back of the hand on the mat is optimal. If you notice your head is collapsing backwards here, perhaps tuck the chin ever so slightly, elongate the back of the neck, and rest the head back down again so that you're more on the occipital ridge than the back of the skull. Again, allowing the eyes just to sink into the socket. If they were open, you would be gazing directly up to the ceiling. So notice that there's a tendency for them to move in the socket to be more focused downward or upward or to one side, and let them rest. Even the micro muscles around the eyeball, let that come to a point of rest. Continue to scan the awareness through the other aspects of the body, allowing a complete sense of relaxation. Feel a real sense of weight and heaviness in the body, really sinking down, almost envisioning your bones were like lead weights, that you were just really rooting down to the ground, collapsing and sinking, letting go entirely. We shift entirely from the doing aspect of the sympathetic nervous system to the being aspect of our parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for our rest and digest. It's part of our natural cycles where our body is at ease. It's where there's the greatest sense of relaxation. Take one last moment just to scan the awareness through the entire body. See if there's any area that you're still gripping or clenching. Sometimes the smallest muscle is activated. Just invite a greater sense of rest into this area. Greater sense of relaxation, ease. We move to a state of restoration. And finally bringing awareness to the third eye, the space in between the two eyebrows, and a few inches into the skull, near the area of the brain responsible for the parasympathetic nervous system.
body back into the form. And then begin to make some small, subtle gestures and movements. Maybe wiggle the fingers and toes. Maybe rotating your wrists and ankles. And breathing some activation back into the body. Perhaps you can take the arms overhead along the ground and have a big stretch, as if awakening from a sleep. And one more time, bending the knees and hugging them in toward the chest. Gently rocking over to the right hand side in a fetal position. And then transitioning by extending the upper leg, press into the upper hand, coming up to a seated position. We'll take a moment to close our practice as we began it. So once you find a comfortable seat, root through the sit bones, feel the lift through the spinal column. And I'll invite you once more to bring the palms pressing together at heart center, thumb toward the sternum. Anjali Mudra. Even in these unprecedented times, in the midst of uncertainty, may our hearts feel full with love and compassion. For those who are struggling, for those who are grieving, and perhaps that's even for yourself. As we approach this holiday season, this long weekend coming up, maybe you had long-standing plans that are now being shelved for the benefit of all. May we be filled with a sense of acceptance of what is. And at peace with those things that we cannot control. The light in me acknowledges and bows to the light in you. Namaste. Thank you for joining. I'll be offering a Friday class at 9:30 each week and this Monday morning class at 9:30, Gentle Hatha. Look forward to sharing those with you. Have a beautiful